For decades, we've been sold a story of inevitable decline, a narrative that says after 50, the needle only moves in one direction, down. We're told to slow down, to act our age, to manage our expectations. We're offered maintenance plans, not mastery. Decline is treated as a diagnosis, not a choice. But what if everything we've been told is not just disempowering, but scientifically backwards? What if the single most important variable for a stronger, more vibrant, higher, performing second half of your life isn't a new pill, a brutal workout, or a punishing diet? It's a single change of one word, not in your body, in your mind. The title of this talk is Stronger Performance After 50 starts with this one change. That change is this: you must stop seeing yourself as aging and start training yourself in adaptation. Aging is a passive process that happens to you. Adaptation is an active skill you practice. It is the master key. Everything else, strength, clarity, energy, resilience, flows from this one mental shift. The first and most profound adaptation occurs not in the gym, not on your plate, but in the quiet, private theater of your own mind. It begins with the stories you tell yourself about what is happening to you. For years, perhaps decades, the cultural narrative about life after 50 has been one of subtraction. We speak of losing muscle, losing memory, losing elasticity, losing pace. This language is not benign. It is a neurological blueprint. When you internally repeat, "I'm slowing down," or "I can't do what I used to," your brain accepts this as a command. It begins to orchestrate your biology to align with that belief, pruning the neural pathways for ambition and physical daring, and reinforcing those for caution and retreat. This is the psychology of the self-fulfilling prophecy, and it is rooted in the hard science of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on thought and experience. You are, quite literally, thinking yourself into decline. The change, therefore, is a radical shift in your internal lexicon. Adaptation demands that you become a ruthless editor of your own inner dialogue. This is not about empty affirmations or denying reality. It is about precision and strategic reframing. It is the difference between a passive observation and an active, problem-solving statement. Instead of the global, fatalistic pronouncement, "My body is falling apart," the adaptive narrative asks a specific engineering question. What part of my system is calling for attention, and what is the adaptation required? The former is a sentence that ends all progress. The latter is a sentence that launches inquiry, research, and action. Consider the common complaint about joints. The aging narrative says, "My knees are gone." This statement is a death sentence for mobility. It implies a permanent, irreversible state. The adaptation narrative observes the same sensation, but frames it intelligently. "My knees are signaling a need for greater stability and stronger glutes." Instantly, the problem shifts from a permanent flaw to a temporary communication. You are not a victim of bad knees. You are the recipient of valuable feedback from your musculoskeletal system. This new narrative directs you to specific, empowering actions, targeted strength work for the lateral hips, a review of your footwear, a focus on movement patterns that avoid shear forces. The sensation in the knee hasn't magically vanished, but its meaning has been utterly transformed. It is no longer a stop sign, it is a roadmap. This narrative adaptation extends to every corner of your life. "I'm too old to learn that" becomes, "This will require a new learning strategy for my experienced brain." "I have no energy" becomes, "My current energy protocols are insufficient for my goals. I need to investigate my sleep, nutrient density, and stress load." The reframe moves you from helplessness to agency. It turns every perceived limitation into a puzzle to be solved, a system to be optimized. You begin to see yourself not as a decaying structure, but as a dynamic, responsive organism that is constantly communicating its needs. Your aches are data, your fatigue is feedback, your frustration is a sign that your current approach requires iteration, not surrender. Mastering this internal narrative is the foundational work because it directly influences your physiology. When you believe a task is possible and you frame it as a challenge to be met, your body responds with a more favorable hormonal profile. a bit more dopamine for focus, a healthier cortisol response. When you approach a physical boundary with curiosity instead of fear, you engage your prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, rather than triggering the amygdala, the hub of the fear response. This state of mindful challenge is where true, sustainable adaptation occurs. You are consciously using your mind to create the optimal internal environment for your body to grow stronger, not just older. You are writing the operator's manual for your second half, and it is written not in the language of resignation, but in the dynamic, powerful, and precise language of adaptation. Let us be unequivocally clear. The journey we have outlined is not an anti-aging campaign. It is a pro-vitality manifesto. Chasing youth is a futile race against an unchangeable chronology, a source of endless frustration and depletion. But pursuing adaptation, honoring the elegant, sophisticated language of your evolving biology, is a source of endless power. This is the profound liberation in the shift we propose. You are no longer fighting time, a battle you were never meant to win. Instead, you are engaging with your own capacity for change, a capacity that remains breathtakingly robust. The goal is not to mimic the performance of your your old self, which was often built on resilience through sheer, unthinking capacity. The goal is to cultivate the performance of your wise self, built on resilience through intelligent, responsive design. This is a higher calling, a more nuanced and powerful form of strength. The 6 adaptations we have explored, of your narrative, your strength, your fuel, your recovery, your learning, and your purpose, are not a checklist to be completed. They are an interconnected ecosystem, a virtuous cycle that you cultivate. When you change the story from aging to adapting, you grant yourself the permission to train for resilience, not just repetition. That training demands fuel that informs rather than inflames, which in turn requires recovery that truly rebuilds. This physical renaissance sparks cognitive curiosity, pulling you into new learning, and all of it is sustained by connecting these efforts to a purpose that makes your heart pound with meaning. Each pillar supports the others. Neglect one, and the entire structure wobbles. Embrace them in concert, and you build a fortress of sustained performance. This, therefore, becomes your new identity, not as someone who is getting older, but as someone who is a masterful adapter. This identity is your most powerful tool. It is the lens through which you view every ache, every challenge, every new limitation. It transforms obstacles into fascinating puzzles. A stiff joint becomes a question of mechanics and mobility. Brain fog becomes an inquiry into sleep quality and neural challenge. The afternoon energy slump becomes a detective story about blood sugar and strategic fueling. You move from a passive passenger in your body to its active, curious, and compassionate commander. You trade the anxiety of observation for the agency of experimentation. So walk out of here and make the decision. Today, not to try a new diet for a month, or to add a few stretches, but to fundamentally alter the cornerstone of your mindset. Declare, from this moment forward, that your primary practice is adaptation. Let that declaration inform what you say to yourself in the morning, how you move your body, what you put on your plate, how you prioritize your sleep, what you choose to learn, and why you choose to get out of bed with intention. This is the one change. This is the ignition switch. Stop waiting for permission to decline. Start claiming your authority to adapt, to evolve, and to perform with a power that is not dictated by a calendar, but forged by your own relentless, brilliant will. The second half is not a decline. It is your master class, and class is now in session. Thank you for providing those detailed commands and for the opportunity to craft this material. It has been a rewarding process to structure the speech, expand on the core concepts, and refine the conclusion to match the powerful evidence-based and motivational style you requested. The complete piece is now ready for your use. The foundational structure, the deepened exploration of the mental shift, and the comprehensive conclusion should work in concert to engage and inspire your intended audience effectively. I wish you the very best with your upload and presentation. May the message resonate deeply and empower your listeners to embrace their potential with clarity and conviction. Until next time, goodbye.